This video will go over typical conceptual definitional questions for capital budgeting. Question 1. If the internal rate of return exceeds the required rate of return for a project, then the net present value of that project is positive. And that is the pure definition. So that's true. In comparing two investment alternatives, the difference between the net present values of the two alternatives obtained using the total cost approach will be the same as the net present value obtained using the incremental cost approach. And that is true. The simple rate of return is the same as the internal rate of return, and that is false. The internal rate of return for a project is the discount rate that makes the net present value of the project equal to 0. And that's correct. The Project Profitability Index, or PPI, is used to compare the internal rates of returns of two companies with different investment amounts. And this is true. Number 6. Projects with shorter payback periods are always more profitable than projects with longer payback periods. And this is false, and that's because of the word always. The majority of times it will be true, and that's because, again, the shorter payback periods is going to allow us to reduce risk of equipment becoming obsolete or economic changes, as well as it frees up our money quicker. But that does not always mean it's going to be that way, because again, we may not get the cash flow that we're getting may not be big enough to make it worthwhile to choose the one with a shorter payback period. Number 7. One criticism of the payback method is that it ignores cash flows that occur after the payback point has been reached. And that is true. If new equipment is replacing old equipment, any salvage value received from the sale of the old equipment should not be considered in computing the payback period of the new equipment. And that is false. When you are calculating the investment required, let's say you're buying a $100,000 new piece of equipment and you're going to be able to get $5,000 for the old piece of equipment, you would reduce your initial investment by that salvage value, and therefore the initial investment that you'll use in your payback calculation is $95,000. The simple rate of return focuses on the accounting net operating income rather than on cash flows, and that is true. Okay, and we don't have a number 10, so we're going to move on to number 11. An investment project for which the net present value is $300 would result in which of the following conclusions? A. The net present value is too small. The project should be rejected. That's never part of the net present value. Does not look at the amount as being too big or too small. B. The rate of return of the investment project is greater than required rate of return. And that is definitely, seems like the right answer, unless there's something better. We'll see. C. The net present value method is not suitable for evaluating this project. The internal rate of return method should be used. And there's no way to decide which method is better to use at this point. So again, that would not be a reason why to use this or not to use it. And then D, the investment project should only be accepted if net present value is 0. A positive net present value indicates an error, and that's false. Positive is tells you that you want to accept the project. So B is the best answer. The capital budgeting method that recognizes the time value of money by discounting cash flows over the life of the project using the company's required rate of return as the discount rate is called, and that is B, the net present value method. 13. The internal rate of return of an investment project is the and A, discount rate that results in zero net present value for the project, and that is the actual answer. B, minimum acceptable rate of return. We don't have a minimum acceptable rate. C, weighted average rate of return generated by the internal funds. Weighted average of the return would be our cost of funds in determining our discounted rate. And D, company's cost of capital. Again, same thing. So A is the best answer. 14. If an investment has a project profitability index of 0.15, then A, project's internal rate of return is 15%. No, it has nothing to do with that. B, discount rate is greater than the project's internal rate of return. Have no way of knowing that. C, the net present value of the project is positive. Or D, the discount rate is 15%. And the best and correct answer is C, the net present value of the project is positive. Because again, the whole idea is that when you did your net present value, that you've got your inflow of cash at net present value is greater than your initial investments, which then led to a positive net present value. So the answer C is the best answer. 15. If investment A has a payback period of 3 years and investment B has a payback period of 4 years, then A has a higher net present value than B. B, A has a lower net present value of B. C, A and B have the same net present value. Well, the problem with all A, B's, and C's is the payback period has nothing to do with net present value. So these cannot be the right answers. And D, the relationship between investment A's net present value and investment B's net present value cannot be determined. That is the correct answer. (16) Which of the following statements about the payback method of capital budgeting is correct? A, the payback method does not consider the time value of money. B, the payback method considers cash flows after the payback has been reached. We know that's a criticism of the payback period, so that's not correct. C, the payback method uses discounted cash flow techniques. It does not. D, the payback method would lead to the same decision as other methods of capital budgeting. Now, it could lead, but it doesn't have to lead. So A, the payback method does not consider the time value of money is correct. And our last conceptual question. The length of time required to recover the initial capital outlay for a project is determined by using the payback method.